Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission here is to take a stack of source material articles, transcripts, notes from a truly shocking investigation, and, well, give you the shortcut to understanding the deeper currents at play.
And today we are diving into a narrative that it begins with the most mundane of domestic secrets. A missing man tied to a clandestine affair.
Right, something we've seen before.
Exactly. But what starts in a cheap, rust-carpeted motel room rapidly metastasizes into this staggering case. We're talking calculated deception, a sophisticated pattern of abduction and rape, and eventually attempted murder.
Our sources center on two key figures, Naomi Jenkins, who sees herself as a truth teller, and Robert Haworth, the missing lorry driver. And we are tracking a horrifying thread of conspiracy here, revealing how Robert manufactured not just a secret relationship, but, an entire hidden identity.
An identity all designed to enact a perverse form of revenge.
Yeah, we need to follow the psychological breadcrumbs, not just the procedural ones, to understand how a perfect love story was, in fact, a perfect predatory trap.
It's a study in control and trauma. And to understand the explosive resolution, we first have to understand the character who ignited the whole investigation. Naomi Jenkins.
Naomi Jenkins is instantly captivating, and she defines herself by this radical self-determination. She's fiercely proud of her fighting spirit, and she has a core philosophy. She refuses to go with the flow.
For Naomi, misery and shoddiness, as she calls it, are not compulsory parts of life. She believes in having the nerve to aim absurdly high.
Which is such a great phrase.
It is. And that philosophy, it informs everything about her life, including her highly specialized, highly deliberate profession.
She's a sundial maker.
A self-employed freelance sundial maker. She creates these specialized hand-carved pieces for private clients.
And we have this wonderful specific detail about one of her creations. It's this plain stone cube with these triangular iron shadow casters. And the shadow casters are called gnomons.
Right. And the inscription on that cube.
Time is a shadow. It's an almost philosophical motto suggesting that she is obsessed with tracking absolute truth, even when that truth is fleeting or, obscured.
And that obsession with truth and high ambition is precisely what drove her straight into a relationship built on lies. Her first meeting with Robert Haworth became the founding myth of their affair.
It happened at, of all places, Rondesley East Services,
Yeah.
a motorway service station.
Exactly. And Naomi, true to form, was in a public, very vocal argument over what she deemed offensive food lukewarm, greasy chicken. It's important to note she wasn't shy about making a scene if standards weren't met.
And that's when Robert Haworth steps in.
Right. He didn't just apologize for the services, he vanished, and then he returned with a full replacement meal wine, tray, cutlery, and expensive cloth napkin from the exclusive Bay Tree Bistro attached to the complex.
Which is just an incredible gesture.
It is, but as we learn much, much later, the Bay Tree does not do takeaway. Robert was an employee, not a rescuer. But at the time, for Naomi, that defined him. He was the man who did things nobody else would do.
And even the very visible wedding ring on his finger didn't matter.
Not at all. She decided right then and there to be utterly ruthless and pursue him.
The affair, for all its intensity, was rooted in this very specific geographical limitation and, deception.
Yeah.
They always met in room 11 at the Traveltel.
And our sources describe it so unflatteringly. A hard, synthetic, rust-colored carpet that felt like toothbrush bristles and these cheap orange foam mattresses.
Just a shitty motel, basically.
Completely, but Robert insisted, every single time, room 11. He claimed he needed to stick to one room to make the illicit arrangement feel homely and safe.
Which, that's the first clue, isn't it? This profound need for control, establishing the affair on his precise, constrained terms. It alleviates his anxiety that it might become sordid.
And his public persona was equally controlled. He was Robert Haworth, the self-employed lorry driver. Quiet, intelligent, and worried. He insisted he had stopped taking these lucrative overnight jobs because his wife, Juliet, was timid, unworldly, and just couldn't bear to be left alone.
The dutiful, if straying husband.
That's the image, which is where Naomi's close circle provides the first resistance. Her best friend and lodger, Yvonne Cochin, who runs Summer House Web Design, was highly skeptical.
She wasn't buying it.
Not for a second. Yvonne questioned why Robert couldn't stay overnight, and she doubted the description of Juliet as this fragile, timid invalid. Why would a man who could afford the Bay Tree be driving a lorry, and why was his wife so helpless?
Good questions.
All this manufactured stability, it just collapses on Monday, April 3, 2006. Robert misses their Thursday night rendezvous, and his mobile is off.
So Naomi's alarm escalates when she drives by his home, 3 Chapel Lane in Spilling, and sees his red lorry parked right there, the one with Robert Haworth in big black letters on the side when he should have been out working.
She is driven by sheer worry and makes the unannounced visit to the house. It's described as a low, long, back-turned cottage with a faded green door, deliberately designed to face away from passers-by.
A very apt metaphor for a life of secrecy.
It really is. She steels herself, telling herself she's too worried to be intimidated.
And this leads to the most crucial, yet initially incomprehensible moment of this first part. Naomi tries to look through the lounge window.
Right, and she sees white walls, a navy blue sofa, and a glass-fronted cabinet containing many almost offensively tacky, not very tasteful pottery houses, and a generic stand-up calendar.
And that's it. That mundane, slightly trashy domestic scene is the trigger. She collapses, suffering a massive, violent panic attack.
She stumbles away, just suffocating, unable to identify what specifically about the pottery houses or the lounge triggered it. She just knew she had to escape the sight of that room.
It's so deeply unsettling because it defies logic. I mean, why would bad taste cause such a severe physical reaction?
The sources suggest it's because the tackiness of those ceramics represented the shoddiness Naomi detested, and they signaled a settled, ordinary life that Robert had assured her was fragile and lonely.
It was the visual proof of his massive deception.
Exactly. And before she can even recover, she is confronted by Juliet Haworth, Robert's wife.
And Juliet emerges wearing a black suit, instantly making Naomi think of a funeral. A very deliberate choice of clothing.
Very. Juliet not only knows Naomi's name, but delivers this chilling farewell. You're better off without him. I've done you a favor.
Wow, I've done you a favor.
That phrase, combined with the black suit and her knowing Naomi's name, immediately cements Naomi's belief that Juliet has killed or seriously harmed Robert.
The comfortable, separate life Robert promised Naomi was never anything more than a carefully constructed illusion.
And that, listeners, sets us up for the truly unethical but highly effective decision that shifts this from a missing persons inquiry to a major criminal investigation. We have to pause here. We've established the deep psychological commitment Naomi has to truth. But what happens when she decides a massive lie is the only path to the truth?
So Naomi goes to the police station. She's desperate, convinced Robert is in danger and that Juliet is responsible. This is where we meet our investigating officers, DC Simon Waterhouse and Sergeant Charlie Zailer.
And Charlie Zailer is immediately skeptical. I mean, frankly, she's dismissive. She sees Naomi dressed expensively, carrying a Lulu Guinness handbag, reporting a married man missing as a classic bunny boiler.
She just assumes Robert has skipped town after being rumbled by his wife.
Exactly. Zailer is highly procedural, very quick to judge. She does note, however, the strange detail of Naomi's profession. She makes an internal note that the word gnomon, the shadowcaster on the sundial, will take some getting used to.
But even that intriguing detail isn't enough to push the case up the priority list.
No. And this procedural friction is exactly what Naomi expected, and it's what drives her subsequent action. She felt DC Gibbs, who handled her initially, was rude and dismissive, and she concluded the police were doing sod all.
She wasn't getting the urgent attention she believed Robert's disappearance warranted.
So Naomi, the self-proclaimed truth-teller, makes this extraordinary calculation. She returns and tells DC Waterhouse a big lie. She fabricates a violent crime, believing only a major felony would trigger the urgent action she needed to save Robert.
The audacity of this lie is truly shocking. She claims Robert Haworth abducted and raped her in 2003.
And this is key. She insists on keeping the fabrication as close to the truth as possible. So she falsely claims their affair took place in the Travel Till food court, not the specific room 11 they actually used.
It's a tiny detail, but it's a deliberate choice.
It is. And the detailed fabrication she provides is horrifying, graphic, and specific. She describes being abducted at knife point, being cut out of her clothes for over an hour by Robert, a ritualistic element, and being raped orally, vaginally, and anally.
Well, a group of men cheered, laughed, clapped, and made lewd comments nearby while eating dinner. She specifically names one of the men as Paul.
And she claims she only later identified Robert by his lorry on March 24th, 2005.
Hold on, we have to pause here and analyze that decision.
Yeah.
She fabricated a horrific multi-perpetrator rape, naming specific sexual acts, purely to get a missing person report taken seriously. I mean, isn't that fundamentally damning to her credibility, even if she got the right result?
Absolutely. It's reckless, it's deeply unethical, and it would have been professionally ruinous had it gone wrong. But we have to remember her fighting spirit.
Right. She refuses to go with the flow.
Exactly. She views the system as broken and sluggish, and she sees herself as the only agent capable of enacting justice. She utilized a weapon, the horrific description of a crime, to force the state to act. She was casting a necessary shadow. Her lie to ultimately reveal the true darkness or time of the conspiracy.
The strategy, however terrible, works. Waterhouse and Zailer confirm some foundational facts pretty quickly. Naomi's friend Yvonne Kochan exists, and Robert Haworth and Naomi did have an affair in room 11 at the Traveltel for roughly a year.
The mixed truth pushes the investigation forward under the urgency of the felony rape claim.
So D.C. Waterhouse now has the legal justification to pressure Juliet Haworth. He visits 3 Chapel Lane and finds a woman who is the polar opposite of the timid invalid Robert described.
Right. Juliet is brisk, attractive, she's wearing jeans, no black suit this time, and she laughs when Waterhouse explains Naomi reported Robert missing, claiming he's simply away in Kent with friends. She refuses to cooperate further.
Her lack of cooperation, combined with the extreme nature of the rape claim, that's enough, right?
It is. It allows the police to execute a search warrant based on the suspicion of a violent crime. And this is when the true horror is revealed.
Robert Haworth is found upstairs in the master bedroom. He is unconscious, suffering from severe head injuries, and, as the source says, lying in his own filth.
And the weapon is found nearby. A large stone doorstop covered in Robert's hair and blood. And Juliet, still grinning, insists the doorstop was nicked from the river culvert and refuses to speak or get a lawyer.
She's enjoying this.
She seems to be. The scene confirms Naomi's worst fear. Robert was attacked. Forensics quickly reveal Robert Haworth's blood beneath stain remover on the stair carpet, suggesting an attempt to clean the crime scene or that he was moved from where the attack actually happened.
But the truly consequential evidence comes from the lorry.
Yes. Swabs taken from the interior of Robert Haworth's lorry contain semen that is definitively not his. And here's the connection. The long, thin room described by Naomi in her false statement, the place where she was supposedly raped, perfectly matches the dimensions and feeling of a lorry cab interior.
So her lie wasn't entirely a lie. The details were real.
The details were shockingly real. And this is the moment where the shadow cast by Naomi's lie begins to reveal the true time. Charlie Zailer, skeptical and sharp, connects the dots.
What does she find?
Naomi's description, the cheering men, the clapping, the specific humiliation rituals, the cutting of the clothes, perfectly matches the details provided by 2 other actual rape survivors, Prue Kelvey and Sandy Freegard.
And how did she find them?
They had shared their experiences on an online support group called Speak Out and Survive.
Wow.
Naomi's lie wasn't invented from whole cloth. It was rooted in the common trauma of a shared, planned, predatory modus operandi centered on extreme humiliation. The police realize the details of the lie are true, but the perpetrator and the date are likely false. The case has just exploded.
So now we have a victim, Robert Haworth, who is also a suspected rapist, or at the very least connected to this highly organized, violent criminal enterprise.
Right. And the next step is figuring out the common thread among the 3 victims whose experiences match the MO. Naomi Jenkins, the sundial maker, Sandy Freegard, a children's writer, and Prue Kelvey, an asylum and immigration lawyer.
They are all successful middle-class professional women.
Exactly. But the connection gets bizarre immediately. Robert Haworth didn't just know them. He started profound romantic relationships with 2 of them after they were raped.
Wait, after?
Yes. 3 months after Sandy's attack and 2 years after Naomi's.
That makes no sense.
Yeah.
If he was the rapist, why would you return and start a romantic relationship? And if he wasn't, why would you knowingly pursue women who had been subjected to this specific, horrific trauma?
Those are the exact questions the police are asking, and his behavior post-rape in the relationships was highly contradictory. With Sandy, for instance, he was attentive, supportive, but he actively discouraged her from seeking counseling or joining support groups.
He's trying to isolate them.
It suggests control, a desire to isolate them from anyone who could connect their stories. Then, suddenly and coldly, he ended the relationship with Sandy, claiming he needed to be fair to his timid wife, Juliet.
An excuse Sandy didn't believe. And the police start hypothesizing. I mean, did he simply get cold feet and couldn't handle the trauma?
Or was it something far darker? That he was so intrinsically connected to the attack that continuing the relationship became too risky or revealing?
Meanwhile, Naomi, who is still clinging to this idea that Robert is innocent of the rapes, she focuses her own investigation on the one element of their love story she can check.
The Bay Tree Bistro.
The place where he supposedly performed his chivalrous rescue.
And this is the moment the entire foundation of their year-long affair just dissolves into dust. Naomi visits the expensive bistro, and the waiter, Gilligan, delivers the facts.
And the facts are?
Robert Haworth was not a random benefactor. He worked there as a waiter around 2002-2003, just after he married Juliet. He loved to become a lorry driver, preferring the open roads to hot kitchens.
The initial meeting was entirely fraudulent.
A complete lie. Robert was lying about being a rescuer. The Bay Tree does not do takeaway, nor would it lend out its expensive trays and cutlery to strangers. He was an employee who staged a romantic scene, likely using catering scraps and tools he had access to.
It transforms him from a quiet, intelligent man worried about sordidness into a cheap, sophisticated deceiver. He manufactured his identity layer by layer, starting with their meet cute.
And this forced the police to look deeper into Robert's past, to move past his current identity. And Juliet, now in police custody, reveals the truth.
She gives up his real name.
Yes. Robert was born Robert Arthur Angilley in Oxenhope, Yorkshire. He changed his name to Haworth only 3 weeks after meeting Juliet Hazlehurst.
Okay, so the name change. That provides the first critical insight into his psychology. Why Hesworth?
Because he grew up on Haworth Road and identified deeply with Branwell Bronte.
The tragic brother of the Bronte sisters, the feckless drunkard, the brilliant underdog who failed while his sisters soared.
Exactly. This Branwell complex is crucial. Robert wasn't just a simple failure. He identified with the wasted potential, the bitterness, and the self-pity that comes from being overlooked by literary giants. And this self-pity became the justification for his predatory actions against successful women.
His family background seems to support this profound trauma. His mother was locally known as the Village Bike, but then she managed to start a hugely successful telephone sex company.
Right. She supported the children, sent them to the private Giggleswick school. His father was a National Front-supporting racist who left. Robert was the black sheep, failing his exams, feeling constantly compared, and ending up working in a kebab house before the Bay Tree.
So he had this desperate need for a new identity to escape the humiliation of his past. But the self-loathing was just baked in.
And here is the dramatic intersection that Charlie Zailer, even while supposedly on leave, catches. Robert Arthur Angilley. She realizes that Graham Angilley, the owner of the Silver Bray luxury chalets.
Wait, the man whose business card Naomi carried and whom Charlie had been sleeping with?
That's the one. He is Robert Haworth's brother.
Oh my God. Let's stop and make sure the listener is tracking this. Graham Angilley is the owner of the luxury chalets Naomi listed on her business card as a commission location. He is Robert Haworth's actual brother. And he is the man Charlie Zailer, one of the lead detectives, was casually dating.
The level of operational disaster and personal conflict for Zailer is just staggering.
Unbelievable.
It is. Simon Waterhouse, meanwhile, he connects the procedural dots. If Graham Angilley, the chalet proprietor, is the brother, he is the likely primary organizer or the other main rapist.
And the victims were selected via a network that brings Yvonne Kochan, Naomi's friend, back into the picture.
Yvonne Kochan, the lodger and web designer, created Juliet's website when she was Juliet Hazlehurst first, then Graham and Angilley's chalet website, and subsequently both Naomi Jenkins and Sandy Freegard's professional websites.
So this wasn't bad luck.
Not at all. The Angilley brothers used Yvonne's client list to select successful middle-class professional victims, gathering personal details from the sites to plan the humiliation specific to their careers.
And Robert Haworth's motive just snaps into horrifying focus. The black sheep, who cut ties with his family and hated his successful brother, sought out Graham's victims.
But this wasn't to save them. It was a perverse attempt at deferred gratification. He married them, or had long affairs with them, not out of love, but so he could eventually reveal his secret knowledge of their past ordeal and psychologically destroy them.
He was seeking to inflict the same kind of deep emotional pain his mother inflicted on him. The pain of betrayal and humiliation. It was a masochistic revenge mechanism, targeting his brother's victims as a proxy for his own failure and family trauma. He was controlling the time of their suffering.
The physical location of the rapes, hidden in plain sight this whole time, finally emerges through a subconscious filter. Naomi, traumatized by seeing Robert so severely injured, has a terrifying nightmare.
In the dream, she is Juliet. She's tied to a bed with these distinctive acorn bedposts. She smells smoked salmon, and she sees a low, dark red curtain stage with a low window.
And this is where the mundane details she saw on Robert's windowsill come rushing back. She realizes the not very tasteful pottery house model, the bungalow with a blue arched door, was a miniature of the chalet where she was raped.
So the rape site was Chalet number 3 at Silver Brae Luxury Chalets. It had acorn bedposts on the mezzanine, a stage set up for audiences. It was being rented out by Graham Angilley for shows.
The rapes. They were performed for an audience of paying, often traveling clients.
Oh, that's horrific.
Graham's employee and lover, a woman named Steph, confirms the MO. She cooked meals for the men, initially believing the women were paid actors.
A fiction Graham maintained.
Right. He told the customers, the audience of rapists, that the victims were willing participants to give them an alibi against being charged as accessories.
And Robert Haworth's lorry, the Red Van Man, was integral. It was used to transport the men and victims for Graham's stag nights, the rape shows.
This revelation forces Naomi to accept Robert's true nature. She goes to the hospital intensive care unit to confront him.
And Robert is in dire condition. He's suffering from ongoing epileptic fits and rebleeds from his head trauma, a severe condition we know clinically as cerebellar tonsillar herniation, tonsillar hemorrhagic necrosis.
Which means his brain is swelling, dying, and literally pushing down toward his spine. It is highly likely to be fatal.
When he briefly wakes up, she tries to seek some final connection, some truth, but he just whispers, "Go away, leave me alone."
And this final, devastating rejection shatters Naomi's entire idealized perception of him as a savior.
Her ultimate painful conclusion is that Robert was a coward and a hypocrite. He wasn't just complicit in providing the lorry, he actively participated.
And the DNA evidence confirms Robert personally raped Prue Keldy. He did this not out of predatory lust, but to keep Graham on side, to maintain his access to Graham's list of victims and the entire criminal network.
So Robert's goal was rooted entirely in psychological destruction. He sought out women who had been destroyed by his family member, married them or lured them into affairs, and then planned to psychologically destroy them further.
It was a projection of his own masochism and his deep-seated passion for women who treat him like crud, a trait he learned directly from his complex, powerful mother.
And this brings us back to the attempted murder and Juliet Haworth. Her motive was the final layer of betrayal.
Right. Juliet found out Robert knew about her rape all along. He married her under the pretense of love, but was actually exercising ultimate control, holding his secret knowledge over her.
The moment of the attack came during the final betrayal. Robert attempted to rape Juliet, using Graham's horrific line, "Do you want to warm up before the show?" A line Naomi had recalled from her own fabricated statement.
It forced Juliet to relive her trauma, realizing Robert was about to destroy her. And he was planning to leave her for Naomi, another of Graham's victims, after rendering Juliet psychologically broken.
Robert's betrayal didn't make Juliet timid, as he always wished to believe. It made her empowered.
She transformed into the epitome of the fighting spirit that Naomi prized so much. She bashed his head in, didn't call an ambulance, and now refuses to cooperate with the police, taking this grim satisfaction in the chaos she created.
The case concludes in a final, chaotic scene tied to Zailer's personal life. Naomi, operating independently, realizes she needs to get to Graham.
So she steals Charlie Zailer's keys from the travel-tell, tracks down Charlie's house, and finds Graham Angilley waiting there.
Graham, fiercely protective of his little brother Robert, threatens to kill Naomi if Robert dies. He rants about Robert's masochism and the idolization of women who treat him badly, confirming the psychological profile the police developed.
Simon Waterhouse and D.C. Gibbs crash the scene.
During the ensuing struggle, Graham loses an eye and is arrested. Robert Haworth remains unconscious, dying from his severe head trauma.
And the detectives face their messy reality. Charlie Zailer is deeply depressed, considering retirement after facing professional consequences for her involvement with Graham Angilley.
And for chasing him to Scotland without backup, even bringing Naomi, a key witness and initial suspect, along with her.
Yet the ordeal aligns Zailer and Waterhouse. They are now united in their grim understanding of the Angilley brothers' horrifying conspiracy.
So if we synthesize this entire investigation, the double life of Robert Haworth, Robert Angilley, is the definitive takeaway. He didn't just lie, he weaponized the trauma inflicted by his own brother, using romance and marriage as tools for psychological destruction and control.
The complexity of the motive is what separates this case. Robert wasn't seeking simple lust or money, he was acting out a profound childhood wound. The black sheep, the Branwell Bronte fetcher, sought out women already hurt by his family members so he could complete their destruction.
All driven by a perverse masochism rooted in his mother's powerful, contradictory influence.
And crucially, the entire sprawling conspiracy was unlocked by narrative. Naomi's initial lie, though ethically, questionable to say the least.
Oh, I'm still...
It ultimately forced the police to act, leading them from the Travel-Tel affair to the Lori DNA to the Haworth house, and eventually to the shared trauma of the online support group. The lie was the necessary shadow that revealed the underlying truth.
It wasn't major forensic science that cracked the case, but those tiny, ordinary details that Naomi was initially too traumatized to recognize. The tacky pottery houses in the window, which were miniatures of the rape chalet.
The fake story about the bay tree food, the insistence on the cheap room 11, the shoddiness that Naomi claimed to despise was Robert's true nature.
And the entire investigation finds its thematic center in time and truth. Naomi, the sundial maker, dedicates her professional life to tracking the passing of time. We know Robert Haworth's birthday is August 9th, a date Naomi notes is significant because of its intrinsic link to sundial observation.
And that leads us to the final provocative thought, which links the ongoing investigation to the very instruments of truth. Proust, one of the police inspectors, was considering a motto for the police station's sundial, Depresso Resurgo.
Which means I set, then rise again.
Exactly.
So Robert Haworth, the villain who constantly sought to reinvent himself, is currently medically setting. He's dying from his injuries. What does it mean when the villain's life and the ongoing investigation are intrinsically linked to this motto of renewal?
Can Robert Haworth, the man who weaponized time and deceit, truly rise again, either physically or legally, given the complexity of his crimes and his severe, irreversible injuries? Or does this motto apply only to the victims who, despite everything inflicted upon them, now possess the one thing Robert tried to bury? The truth about the man who controlled their time.